Hey, hope you're doing well. So when trading manually or with trading bots, especially trading bots on this channel, what I quickly find quite difficult and cumbersome is to track properly if you're making gains, how this and this bot, this strategy, this coin, whatever, is it making gains? Is it not? Why? Is the win rate too high? Whatever, all of that. Of course, on the web, you can find some platforms that you pay for that will have this sort of account tracker where you can get all the information that you want, but you have to pay for that. And today I want to show you this little tool I developed for free in Python. I will share everything as usual with all of you, the codes, all of that, where you can see that quite easily. It's just going to be a standalone code where you just click run all, give your API keys, and it'll do the analysis for you. And of course, you can build on that. But you can see very easily to have a capital over time plot, P&L percentage over time as well, but maybe more intricate tools where, for example, you're trading a lot of pairs here. By the way, one important thing, those results that I'm showing you are not just like invented results or whatever. This is actually on a portfolio where I've been running and testing different versions of a bot that I've shared on this channel. So I will actually, during this video, while showing you how the code works, what it can do, I'll be analyzing what this bot has been doing for a few months. So we give some substance, and those of you who are following me, you can see how I've analyzed what came out of all of this, etc. Anyways, so as I was saying, maybe you need some more detailed tools where if you're trading a lot of cryptocurrencies here, you would want to know the number of trades so you know how reliable your analysis is. I mean, typically on 5 trades, it's hard to know your strategy if your metrics are meaningful. But if you start having 40 trades or things like that, then they start making sense. On the other hand, you probably would want to know the P&L in percentage or in absolute value for those cryptocurrencies. Funding fees could be important, but maybe even more important, the win rate to see what's going on. Then we can go into even more details where you could test if your longs are doing good, your shorts are doing good overall, or maybe for some particular coins, etc. So what I want to show you today is how to set this up real quick and talk about this analysis so you can see how powerful this is. And as I said, this is all for free. You will be able to do it yourself. And something else that I forgot to mention is that this will be using what we call a tax endpoint. So the exchange gives this tax endpoint. And as you know, you also have some platforms that you pay for and do the tax reporting for you and compute all the P&L. Well, actually, they use this tax endpoint. So this kind of code you could totally use to build as a template to build your own sort of tax reporting. Obviously, you would have to check your own legislation and how this needs to be done, etc. But typically, this is a template that could allow you to do that for you. Anyways, enough chitty-chatting. Let's get going. Okay, a few starting and setup comments. First of all the links of all the resources that I'm sharing today, as I said, they're all free, will be all in an article, and I've linked this article from my blog in the description down below. Basically, that article is just a written format to explain everything that I'm sharing with you today. Great. So in there'll be a couple of links, and I just want to mention this code. I've actually released it in 2 formats. The first one is just a simple Jupyter notebook that you see here. And what I want to mention, the point of the video today is not to go into the details of the code at all. No, if you have any questions or whatever with respect to this, comments down below or the community Discord, no problem. But my point is here, just to show you that with a few clicks, you can run the analysis. So even if you don't understand Python too much or whatever, you don't need to. You can just run the analysis. And basically what I'll be doing in this video is to show you how to use it and do an analysis of that strategy I mentioned. So I illustrate the power or whatever the features of this code has. So in that perspective, I have this standalone file that I'm sharing here where you can just download it. The first cell is quite a big one because it has all the functionalities. I mean, all the functions, classes or whatever to run the code if you want. So you can run that first cell, and provided that you have indeed installed, you have your Python updated, all of that, but you can run that first cell and you don't have to do anything here. The only thing you need to do to run this, if you want, is to fill in your API keys. So here I haven't mentioned that yet, but I'm working a lot with BitGet. That's really an exchange that I love. I run my trading bots there. So this code is built to work with BitGet. So if you want to analyze one of your BitGet accounts, sub accounts, you create an API key. I'll tell you in a second something about this. I mustn't forget. You just plug in your API key, secret password here of the account that you want to analyze. Great. You basically once this is done, you click your run all button in VS Code. It's generally at the top. It runs everything and you will see all the plots come out, all the figures, the metrics, etc. So that's the standalone code. So you can download that, etc. But what I'm going to be using today is that version, but built in this here. This is the repository where I develop all my trading bots and run my trading bots. So it's a repository that on a video I've shared here on the channel. I'll put the links down below. So there's no, if you want to catch up or whatever, you can find it. So basically in this code, I'm running some strategies, all of that. So I want to be able to analyze those strategies directly. So that's why typically I just added a analysis folder here with a run PNL in here. So that's the template, or that's what we will be running in a second together and chatting about. And also in utilities, you have this tax endpoint analysis.py. So that's just all the classes and the functions to run the code. And something that I need to mention as well, because now there's some plotting, etc. If you already have used this live trading bot and downloaded it, cloned it, installed it, you will have to update. So you'll have to do a git clone. And once you have done a git clone, let me see. I want to also show you. I have my cheat sheet here. So you will have, once you have done the git clone, just remember to do this pip install -r requirements.txt. Just update the virtual environment to have also the packages required for this tax endpoint analysis here. Okay, I need to tell you something about the API keys. So typically the API keys for this tax endpoint here on BitGet, you create your API key, etc. If you don't know too much how to do that, there is a Python trading bot toolbox in the description where there's a link of many helpful videos here, and there's one about creating API keys. But what I want to mention, to get access to this tax endpoint, you don't need read-write. You definitely don't have to do that. So just read-only is great. But especially you need to type here on taxation search. And that's all you need to run the code and therefore fetch this tax endpoint information. So that's here. The other thing that I want to mention, I didn't mention that when I opened this is indeed the code that I'm running on a server. So I have connected remotely with VS Code to that server, as you can see here. So by the way, again, if you don't know how to connect remotely to a server, all of that, there's also in this toolbox series of video, one about connecting remotely with VS Code. Great. So I think you have the bigger picture. Now it's time to, you have the ingredients and all of that. If you have any questions, Discord as usual, comments down below as well, no problem. But now this is set up and we can start running the code so I can talk about this analysis and show you all the cool features, etc. Okay, great. So you know what? I'll simply click on the run all so you will see everything happening under your eyes. And basically what you're seeing from this cell, this one has just been executed. This one is now running. And basically what you see happening here, it is downloading by batch all the information on the tax endpoint on the account that we chose to analyze. By tax endpoint, I mean by that a URL where we can fetch the data that we're seeking here. Great. So how do we configure in this context the account that we want to analyze? Same thing, API keys. You might remember if you've been following and have installed this trading bot code here, that there is this secret.json, which is where I store all the API keys, etc. So otherwise, you can just, if you haven't seen the video, you just open this secret.json and you will see when you download the code, there's an example of how to put the API keys. And basically you can define several and each of them have a name to access them. And you can typically see that I've created one that is envelope tax endpoint so that's of my envelope strategy trading bot that we're going to analyze here. There we go. So that's for the API key to configure the account. The second very important thing here is this here, the portfolio start date. So what I want to mention, typically, how does this tax endpoint data look like? It looks like this. So I've just here as an example, just you have this records raw df. That just means the data frame of the raw data. So I'm just showing it to you. So you see actually what is coming, what are we really downloading, and then from there, what the code does to reconstruct everything nicely. So the raw data is basically a table with the ID of the transaction. Transactions, there's several types. We'll get to this. You have the symbol in the column, the margin coin. You have future tax type. So yeah, this bot that we're analyzing runs on futures. So that's why you have future tax type here. And you can see you have open long, open short, you'll have closes as well, but you don't only have that. You have like transfers information, margin, like funding fees, things like that. So something that is super important. Why am I saying that this to set the portfolio start date is very important? Is because in this tax endpoint information, there's no real time telling you how much your capital is. You have to reconstruct that. You reconstruct your capital by taking into account all the transfers that happen on your account and all the trades. So by computing the P&L and adding. So basically, if your portfolio start date, you're putting something later, like you have traded, I don't know, 6 months ago, but you put portfolio start date 2 months ago, well, the record will not fetch some of the transfers, some of the P&L. So by the end of the analysis, the final capital that this analysis will show you won't correspond to what you see on the account. So it's very important to put this portfolio start date to be really the beginning when you, for example, just before you put your first transfers or your first trades or things like that. You really want to fetch the full record. And then don't worry, I'll show you here. I have put an analysis window. So if you want to focus on a specific period to do your analysis, then you can configure that in the analysis part. But when you're downloading the data, I'm repeating myself, but really make sure that you're downloading the whole data. Typically here, I know like the first month here, the beginning, there was 0 entries. That was before I actually started trading with that account. But you can see from there on, there were some entries coming in. So there's that. I just wanted to mention this is the raw data coming out, but I also created this trades data frame. So here, records manager.trades. By the way, what is records manager is what is here. Anyway, so this records manager.trades is just a data frame of all the trades. And this is now extra records is everything that is not trades. So you can see here, you have transfers, etc. So basically, this is the data that we are dealing with. I almost forgot to say that here I was just showing you with these records here and trades, etc., that you can see them in data frames if you just want to look at them. But actually, if you want to print the whole record and have it as a CSV file, I did put a feature where if you give a file name here like this and run the code, it will automatically save it in this file name here. So there you go. Now it's time to finally discuss the analysis and show you all you can do once you've reconstructed all this data. But first, there's 2 things I need to say quickly. First, I'm not a financial advisor, and this video is not financial advice. This is just about me sharing my work, my enthusiasm, my experience, my opinions. You have to know that trading is very risky and you can lose all your capital with that. Okay, the other thing that I want to mention is that if you don't have an account yet on BitGet and you're interested with it, I have a registration link down below that will grant you a 10% discount on all your trading fees, which doesn't sound like a lot, but with compound interest can make quite a big difference in the long run. And I also want to say thank you if you do use that, because this means I will get a bit of commissions back from BitGet. So not all your trading fees go to them, but a bit come back to me. And that's a huge support for me to carry on doing all this open source free content. Anyways, let's get to business. Okay, great. So what I just did was to do a run all again, because this time what I did is in this analysis window, I chose a specific date that you see here, a specific period, beg your pardon. Why this specific period? Because that corresponds to when I run this envelope strategy, the full trading bot, with a configuration that I shared at the beginning here on the community Discord, where I shared all the parameters, the timeframes, and all the coins I was using. So we'll really take this as an example to illustrate all the features of this code. And also at the same time, for those of you who are following me, I also want to share the insights, which I find quite interesting on this strategy that I've been running during this time. Great. So let's start. First thing first, we have a records manager.print global analysis. So this just prints what you see here, which is a general analysis, which gives you some first-hand metrics about what has been going on. Dates here, bear in mind, this is slightly different from here. It's within. That's because this corresponds to the earliest date when a trade was open, while this is the latest date of the last trade being closed. Not sure that made sense, but I think you probably understood me. So this is really using the records. So that's why we have those very specific dates here. Great. So final capital, number of trades, total win rate, very good. P&L, almost P&L percentage, over 4 months. This trading bot, a bit more than 4 months. This trading bot. Oh, by the way, why am I not taking it up to today here and stopping it here? Because I indeed stopped because I made the analysis here and I started changing things, which I'm going to share with you. So that's why the end date is not today, but a few weeks ago. Great. So sorry, what I was at saying almost 10% in a bit more than 4 months. So that may sound like a lot or maybe not a lot for you. It depends. I don't know what you expect, but for me, this is very good. Knowing that I sent this very good for several reasons. Basically, this range, this period has been a very boring market when Bitcoin has been ranging a lot and there weren't many activities and all of that, but the trading bot still managed to capitalize and make a 10% gain. And now with that, and I know the optimizations that I could do, I know I could probably do better than that. But again, past performances, those last 4 months are not going to be the same as the next. So, but I'm expecting with the bull run, there's more activity, and you'll probably realize that as compared to what you had seen in the intro, they were starting to have much more activity in the recent days because of the bull run happening. So anyway, so for me, I think I'm very happy to see this kind of performance. Something else that is even more important is what is happening here. So I'm seeing that my longs have a huge win rate, almost 90%, very good. I want a very high win rate with this strategy. The shorts, however, have a bad win rate, 52%. And even more than that, you see that the P&L from the shorts overall were negative. So here I'm seeing first optimization for the future, especially at the moment when the market is really pumping. There's no point considering shorts, I believe, or at least not considering them the way they were set up at that point. But I think with this current market, I shouldn't even bother with shorts. So after this date here, I actually just removed the fact that I just forbid the code from entering shorts and just said long only, basically. So that's an interesting thing. Why am I saying that 51% is bad? Keep in mind, I'm not going to go into detail, but this strategy is a mean reversion strategy where you have a moving average here, a very short-term moving average, which I displace at the bottom here or at the top to create these levels. And then every time the price hits one of these levels, the trade is entered and the trade is exited when the price hits again the central white moving average here. And each time the capital is split across all those possible envelopes here. So what is important in this kind of strategy, mean reversion strategy, generally losing trades will have in absolute value do more losses than what a gain would come from a winning trade. So for your strategy to be overall profitable, you want to have a very high win rate. So to have much more winning trades than losing ones. This is generally not the case if you're more used to trend strategies. Then trend strategies can actually have win rate around 40% and still be very profitable because the pumps and your winning trades will be huge as compared to your losing trades. This situation is reversed with a mean reversion strategy. Great. So let's carry on. So that's that. Very interesting. I'm super happy to see that. I think as I said, no more shorts for the moment. That was an important insight. Let's move on. So as we've discussed already quite a lot about the overall performances, but you could also look at your capital over time with these plots here, these methods here, P&L percentage over time as well, or just raw absolute in USDT P&L over time. I think there's just one thing I want to mention. Before here, I've put a shown transfer. So actually, I didn't put any money or remove any money during those 4 months. But you might remember from the plots in the introduction, you would have vertical lines here showing when you would have a transfer, because it's important for you to disentangle between jumps here from trading or from just injecting or removing money. So anyways, there's no transfers here. These jumps or drops that we see are really the trading bot working. And as I said, there's not so much activity. I mean, there's several, weeks where nothing happens. Then there's a lot of trades that do a big pump in the capital of your portfolio. Then not much happening, a loss or a few losses, etc. And as you can see, things have been getting better in terms of activity. So it's cranking up here. So you just have to understand as well that cryptos are very correlated. So generally, even if you're considering a lot of coins with this strategy, a lot of different coins, they generally enter trades very close to each other. So that's why you do have these pumps where basically this is probably maybe 6 trades were entered at the same time. So 6 different coins, they all got, it all was a winner. So you have a huge pump. Great. Okay, I think I've said enough on that. Of course, if you have any questions, you remember comments down below, community Discord, no problem. Let's carry on. So that was general insights, but I think one needs to analyze things a bit further. And typically, we would want to know, when we're doing this, we would want to know, first of all, the number of trades we did per pair. For 2 reasons. I mean, like you can see a lot of these pairs actually didn't trade during these 4 months. So I could question myself, is it worth splitting my capital and actually giving it to some of these coins which are actually not trading? So that's under optimized. So that's one possible optimization. I think on that specifically, since the market is quite changing at the moment, I think I wouldn't remove right now these coins because things might change. But, that's an important insight here. Another thing why I'm also interested in the number of trades, because when I'm going to be analyzing the win rate, the P&L, all of that, I need to know how many trades gave that. Typically, if I have, 100% win rate here, but actually that coin that did this 100% win rate there's just one trade. Well, typically I would understand that this 100% win rate is absolutely not significative. It doesn't mean anything. There's not enough statistics to say something about this. But on the other hand, this Pendle USDT that we have here that did a huge amount of trades, almost 40. Well, this guy here, we see Pendle about 60% win rate, which is a bit lower than what I would like with this strategy. For me, I think lower than 70%, that's kind of my comfort zone. Lower than 70%, I'm not very happy. So typically you could, like this, by doing this gymnastics, telling yourself, probably when I did the backtest and my optimizations of parameters and all of that, before started trading these 4 months where I created my setup, if you want, obviously I only took parameters that were within my comfort zone. What do I see here? I see that this is below my comfort zone. So from there, I can have 2 conclusions, basically. And the main one is that if I just look at this and I see this big difference, probably the parameters could have been a bit overfitted. So I had 70% with past data, but with the same parameters, I'm now only getting a 60% win rate when I started trading it. So there is a discrepancy. So maybe the parameters were a bit overfitted. So I could change that and look into this. However, that's only half of the story, because what I want to show you later, well, basically, I think I'll show you now, actually. So I've prepared that. These are plots where I do plot per trade type, and there is here global. So per trade type means, for example, number of trades in terms of longs and number of trades that were shorts, and same for P&L, same for win rate. So that's the global, so all the trades. But then importantly, I've allowed here, you see results here, pair, I'm giving Pendle, while here it was global, meaning, as I said, the 4 trades. But here is analyzing this only on Pendle. And what do I see? So why am I looking into this? Because I'm trying to understand whether this 60% win rate is an overfitting, or maybe there's something that I can just improve straight away. And what I see here is that, okay, I've had a lot of short trades, more than longs, but what happened? We saw that as a general thing at the beginning, but now I'm seeing really on this pair that the longs gave a certain P&L, but the shorts were completely bad. And also the win rate of the shorts were very bad. They were like, a bit more than 50%, while my longs are probably around 70%, like in my backtest. So I'm thinking that's a great insight. It just means no more shorts for Pendle either. And as I said, that's what I did in a general. But that's one important, insight that you can get from all of this. So again, here you have all the win rates. Some are very high. Again, you always have to correlate with the number of trades to know whether they make sense. But typically, for example, if I'm looking at FET USDT here and FET USDT here, I have very high win rate, quite a decent number of trades. I think this win rate is significant. It's most likely what I got when I was backtesting. So I'm very happy with the configuration around FET. And surprisingly or not, actually, it turns out in terms of P&L, FET was the guy that really gave a lot of gains as compared to others. And so as you see the P&Ls here. And actually, you see typically this, we'll take this as an example. ADA didn't do well at all with the configuration that I set. And so we might as well have a look at what's going on. Is it because the shorts were terrible or something like that? Let's have a look. Okay, so let's run this again and we'll see what is coming out of this. So we have 5 longs, we had 4 shorts. So, okay, what is happening? Actually, the shorts were the profitable ones, but the longs were terrible. And as I can see, the win rate in both cases is very bad, but the long is even worse. So typically here, I'm judging on 10 trades. So that's maybe 9 trades exactly. So that's maybe a bit short to claim that the statistics are really meaningful, but I'm getting a strong, win rate, 43%. I'm getting a strong feeling that the setup that on the parameters that I chose for ADA just don't work at all. It was probably overfitted. So I should do something about this. Whether I just remove ADA or find new parameters, I'll have to check into this. But basically, that's another important insight. I believe that was probably overfitted or it's not good enough. The last plot I think we haven't mentioned is just a plot of the funding fees in case you're interested. There's not a lot of funding fees. It makes sense here. This strategy is a very fast-paced strategy where you enter on a candle and exit 3 candles or 4 candles afterwards. So you never hold the position for a long time. So this is marginal, but if you were doing long-term trading strategies on futures market, this is all the futures market with this strategy, then you have funding fees and they could get quite important. Okay, great. I've said enough illustration. A few things I want to add to this. Importantly, if you ever need a professional touch, a coder for you because you have some coding projects and all of this, you can let me know. I do that for my clients. You'll have all the information below. You can hire me, no problem. Also, don't forget the registration links. If that's interesting for you, it really helps the channel and it will make you save money as well. Now, if you want more trading bot stuff, this video will most likely interest you. And in the meantime, happy trading, take care, and see you soon.